Okay, I would like to call order the Village of Lansing Planning Board meeting of Monday, April 10th to order at 7:04 PM. I was gonna say most of what we're gonna go over is in front of you. So, first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes for March 28th, 2023. I know that folks, Mike's turning the TV on if you hear beeping. I know folks had a chance to review them and provide edits to Mike. Did anybody have anything that they wanted to add to the minutes?
No,
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of March 28th, 2023 as printed.
Motion by Lisa.
Second by Pat, all in favor?
Aye.
There we go. Unanimous?
Next item on the agenda is the public comment period. This is an opportunity for anyone to bring up anything that's not already on the agenda for tonight.
Hi, it's Susan reporting for the board.
Hey, Susan.
I'm like in awe.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
I'm Carla Marceau. I'm here as an observer for the community party.
Since everybody else is, on one of the boards here, I'll entertain a motion to close the public comment period. Motion by Pat.
Second.
Second by Lorraine, all in favor?
Okay, and so the one big item on the agenda tonight is just a continued discussion of the solar array draft law. So I did pick up all the comments from the last meeting, I think, and put them into a new draft and got them out to everybody. So we can zip over those real quick if people want, just in case there's any comments. And then the big piece of it that we haven't really gotten to yet, I think there's some things towards the end. But the big thing really is section 8, which is permitting requirements for tier 3. And so that was something that we had taken out in our first go through of the solar model law, when we just took a bunch of stuff out, and then we put that back in because we agreed that we thought that we needed something for that tier. So at a real high level, though, I think the first thing's on page 1 or 153, depending on what page you're looking at, but we'd had that discussion about in a visually aesthetic manner being included in section 1, so it said take advantage of a safe, abundant, renewable, non-polluting. We had said, hey, let's move that down to line 2, so that was, I put it in that place. It maybe made more sense, but if, yes, go ahead.
Should be visually.
Visually, I wasn't sure.
Mitigate adverse visually aesthetic. I even wondered about, I'm thinking, what is aesthetics? Is it always visual? But I guess it isn't. Do you know, I started to really get nitty on some of this stuff, because I'm taking.
Did you Google the meaning of that? Let's see what the option.
No, it doesn't really, it doesn't, I'm always thinking it's eye appeal kind of, but it isn't really quite correct.
Oh, okay.
So I think so I decided, yeah, I guess we need to keep it visual, if that's the only thing. It doesn't make noise, does it? These things don't make noise, do they?
Not at this size. I mean, bigger ones will have a low hum to them, but
It would drive me crazy. I
the
can't
ones that we're
understand.
talking about, at least in general, probably wouldn't.
Well, but the first one was in a visually aesthetic manner. This
Yes.
is mitigate adverse visual aesthetic, and it can't be visually.
I would just get rid of the word visual, because aesthetic kind of covers it all.
I sort of think too, that was my thought. What does everybody think?
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, when I put it in there, I'm like, is it visual? Is it visually? Do we need that word at all? It would make this a lot easier.
What do you think? Is there a legal reason to?
Nope, I would take off visual. Just-
It might even-
It gives you a little bit more
I was
flexibility.
gonna say,
I was
it might
gonna
make it a
say,
little more.
In case there's something besides eye.
So somebody doesn't go crazy, you mean, with those solar panels?
There you go.
Yeah.
Aesthetics is really about beauty,
Yeah.
Yes,
which is typically
visual.
visual.
Yeah,
But it could be, like a weird chord could be aesthetically displeasing.
Or even the smell, I suppose, but, I don't know. But I got way into this.
we'll strike that and we'll
All right.
include that in the next draft.
So before we,
Yeah, go ahead.
okay, so then, as I'm
Anything's
reading.
up for, I was just gonna talk about the changes I made, but anything is up for
Well,
discussion.
before we get that far, though, under definitions, we do talk about battery systems. I didn't know whether we wanted, not much, though, later. whether whether that's gonna continue to be something we're gonna have to deal with, whether we wanna define it.
So there's a separate model law for best
That's,
systems.
okay,
That, and it's significantly simpler than this one, by the way.
okay.
Yeah, significantly simpler than this one, if you look at it. Everything about it is shorter. But, yeah, I don't know if we want to,
I don't know how much of that we want to try to tackle in here, if any of it, or if we want to,
tackle that next or reference another.
Because the town did include BESS in there,
Yep.
in which case we would want to put this. But the one thing I thought maybe we should add as a definition is we don't have solar thermal
so that's one of the,
system as
that's
a
one of the-
definition.
that's one of the things.
Things that we talked about last time, and we factored that into solar energy system. We didn't, so, and we did that by saying,
Not limited to solar
Well, we
panels.
said,
required to convert solar energy into electric energy or heat.
Which one are you looking at?
So under the definition, solar energy system. We talked about that at the last one, about changing that,
Or heat.
or, yeah, or heat we added to
I
cover.
always need to be hit over the head with solar thermal, because I didn't know what the hell that was when we started talking about this.
it heats up,
A closed loop of.
Yeah, does everybody know that but me?
No, probably not, but that's what it does.
I wonder then if it begs the question, should we have it in there?
That's what I'm
For
just
clarity's sake.
If, my suggestion would be if we add it, that we add it specifically into the solar energy system definition,
Oh, as opposed to,
just as opposed to trying to add our own new definition, because then we have to go through and reference that definition anywhere solar energy system is referenced. We can build out that definition of what a solar energy system is and be more clear about solar thermal.
the reason I guess I say it is because, okay, so you're not equating it to like a solar panel, because it would be solar tubing or something, I suppose. Okay.
Yeah, they are, it is sort of in that same format, but. yeah.
Okay, that's what I just sort of
We
thought.
can build that definition out, though.
I would add it specifically
Yeah.
somewhere.
Could put it right after heat, just
Yeah.
in parentheses,
or-
just say solar thermal.
Yeah,
Or what might, the term includes but is not limited to solar panels, comma, solar energy equipment, comma, and closed-loop solar thermal systems for heating water, or something along those
Where
lines.
you are, where,
so under that same definition,
Yeah, so like, at the, basically, it's the last clause of the second sentence. Or solar thermal systems such as closed-loop water heating, something or
I
other.
just think the clearer you can be, the better.
okay, yeah, we'll add that in, and that, then we don't have to go through and add new definitions throughout everything else, too.
Yeah, well, that's,
Yeah,
that's,
that's what I wanted to try to avoid. Yeah, that's fine, we can add that in there. Oops, except that doesn't go there, that goes there. Okay,
and then there's some style things that I think are inconsistent, but I will go through that.
that's all gonna get cleaned, some of them will get
Later,
cleaned up,
later,
when,
exactly.
especially when the red lines disappear, you're gonna see like numbers that have nothing after them, that's just a red line thing.
Okay, but I'm-
But then we can clean up whatever else, because I
Okay.
noticed some of it too, like if you look between solar access and solar energy equipment,
there's like a full blank line, and some of that is just, yeah.
Well, there's just style things,
Yeah.
like whether we capitalize tier always.
Yes, yeah.
And that kind of stuff, or percent, one's 110%, not one's, you know, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Okay,
So we'll have to go through the numbering and all that, because I did notice it was all.
Some of it is, yeah.
yeah, that is,
yep.
So if you look at the definitions there at tier 3 solar energy systems, are you down that far?
yep.
So that is where at the last meeting, we had discussed, well, what is tier 3 really?
Well,
Not tier 1 and not tier 2 wasn't good enough, so the suggestion was, let's add something in there about NYSERDA and what they did, so I added that, are not large-scale facilities that require state-level review. That covers what, and if you actually go to the NYSERDA website where they talk about large-scale facilities, that's their language.
Oh, I know.
That's just what I added, again, we can change that or add things to
Actually,
it.
just back up one thing.
Yeah.
Tier 2 solar energy systems. With a total panel surface area of up to 500 square feet. Now, I went through this with Natalie when we had the, you know, it's less than or equal to, or is it, you know, greater than? But is it 499? Is that up to 500?
I would say that's up to 499.
But or is up to 500, up to 500 means 1 through 500?
Yes.
Okay, so I would say, I know, but I'm just telling you, there'll be somebody. of area of less than or equal to 500 square feet? If that's what we want. I mean, if 500 is what we want, I would be very specific about that, that's all. What was that? That was the bushes or something.
That was, yeah, yeah.
It was the trees, yeah, it was.
That one was a little less clear, though.
Because
there was a gap there.
There was a gap.
Yes, that one, there indeed was a gap between, yes, tree
I
units.
knew it would happen too, but this is the same thought process I had, I'm sorry.
No, it's
I
okay.
knit things to death, I know.
The way I look at this, if I came in with a very large project, and I said, well, the village can't review it because if my large project isn't a 1 or a 2, and I'm being required to have a state level review, then I don't need to see the local municipality. But you do need to see the local municipality, so that part should actually come right out of there and just leave 1 and 2. Because you're still gonna,
Oh, I see.
NYSERDA is going like, I thought I said, well, maybe I went through this before, but NYSERDA gives basically an MOU to a company or a person that, yes, this is a good facility, we back you on this, and then you have to go, everything else from there on out is local municipality with the buffering and whatnot, so with some guidance from NYSERDA. So you're still gonna wanna review it.
So if you look under general requirements 5B, it does say that a special permit shall be required for the installation of all tier 2 and tier 3 solar energy systems. So it would get caught there.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that we
Not a
should,
clear definition.
right, that doesn't mean we shouldn't clean the language up above.
I wouldn't give them something that they have on both sides of the fence, and they say, yeah, well, yes, this, but not that.
So are you basically saying solar energy systems that are not tier 1 or tier 2, period?
That's kind of what I'm saying, I mean.
Okay, that's what, I'm just wanting to be clear, okay? That do not, and get rid of the state level
Just get
review,
rid of the
because
thing.
then that precludes us
If it
from
doesn't
seeing
need
it.
1 or 2, then it's pigeonholed into 3.
Right.
Yes, yeah, right. Under the general requirements, I thought maybe we should, a building permit shall be required for the installation of all solar energy systems. And then additional information may be required by the, are we calling you the code and zoning officer or the CEO?
Yeah.
Don't we always call you the CEO?
What's your title?
In
He always
the
calls
rest of the
himself
code, no, I'm talking about the rest of the code.
The code, zoning, and stormwater officer.
Oh, shoot, make it worse.
And then,
Fire inspector,
Yeah, it depends on what.
those
work-
two
Other duties as required.
lighting commission chair.
But they're two separate roles, you just happen to fill both roles.
No,
Another way to sit down and have separate people for the separate roles.
Correct.
yeah,
but in one of the ones we did recently, I thought we called you.
We call them the code
enforcement officer.
Yes, a CEO. I just want to be consistent, I just.
I was gonna say, tell me what it is, and I'll do a find and replace the entire
Exactly.
document, so.
But what is it?
What's your title on the budget line?
It's fire and code, on the budget line,
Yeah.
I'm splitting
Mike
the
Scott.
budget.
Just Mike Scott, yeah.
Exactly, Mike, I guess.
I felt like it was a more glorified title than just that. I felt like it was.
No, there's no,
But here's the thing, do we want to write it to his title? Because if his title changes,
Oh, that's true.
so we might just want to say a code or zoning officer, fire, and whoever that might be, whoever fulfills that duty.
Okay, so just, should we always say the code and zoning officer?
if you go by civil services, code, zoning, and fire. If you go by what
Well, we're
I,
all over the place, and I'm just wondering, let's just start kind of using the same one, but she makes a good point, yeah.
code and zoning's fine.
Okay. So additional information may be required by the code and zoning officer, I would.
Just change those
due
around a little
process,
bit.
yeah, but I think that C should be moved up behind that, and it should become B, because it's,
I'll be perfectly honest with you, I did not look at the order of general requirements one little bit, but we can move them around.
well, because a building permit is required for everything, and a special, and the New York Unified solar permit is required for everything, so I thought.
With the exception, of, and I added the word dedicated, solar thermal installations, because we wanted to, if you're doing solar thermal, you're not gonna fill out the unified solar permit, because that's not what that's
Okay.
for. Then I also thought to myself, well, what if somebody comes in and they have a combination of solar thermal and solar electric, and I was like, no. I want you to fill out the unified permit for that.
Yes.
Dedicated thermal.
Okay.
So that was,
But so I just thought anything that, because it covers everything, you should bundle those first and then say a special permit. And then we can sometimes call it a special permit and sometimes a special use permit. And do we
I
care?
think everywhere in here, I called it a special permit.
Later, there's some,
That
Might be in a section that we
Yeah,
haven't gone
yeah,
over yet. but
exactly.
Yeah, in the ones that we went over, I tried to call it a special
Okay.
permit everywhere.
all right, so we'll get into that later, whether, okay.
And then, so if you look at if you look at D, E, F, G, H, I, those are all ones that we had talked about moving up from other areas, so they were in some of the tier-specific ones, but these ones seemed,
So,
Like,
they are general requirements, right?
this one is,
Hey, the setbacks are whatever the underlying zoning district is. There's removal of trees, that was down in some of the specific tiers, we moved that up. The one that was a little, when we talked about
anti-reflective.
coating,
Do we need the S on the end of that?
where's this?
Things?
that's how they had it in the model law, I don't know, is that, if people want that off there, we can take it off.
Every time they issue it, I'm not transferring all the.
And we wanted, we had some language where that was up to the planning board to decide how it would be applied.
So for
This one, it was like a two-piece one, so that one we wanted, hey, if you're gonna remove trees, that has to follow the existing one, but then if you looked down under,
One of them said it was tier,
if you look down under section 7, 7B, 10A,
A, okay,
that's where we left that piece in there about minimum tree density. So that was the part of it that we said the board might want to have some oversight about waiving if it's depends on the project. Yeah, so that was that two-part one where we wanted to move the first half under general requirements, but keep the second half down there under the tier-specific one.
prior to the,
wait, but is that tree cutting or tree planting or both in 10A?
That's the density, so that would be maintaining the density. So potentially, if you don't have enough density,
It may trigger putting in more.
planting trees, that's the part that we wanted to waive, though, especially after the last time that we had.
Then do we want to get rid of the word tree cutting in 10A? Because then it's not about cutting, it's about adding more if you trigger.
oh, right, yeah, so cut, yeah, that was their blanket definition, so maybe it's not tree cutting, maybe it's
Just trees.
just trees, yeah.
trees,
Just say trees, and there you go,
Colon.
okay. But that's in 7 we're talking.
yeah.
So let's go back.
Yeah, so, G was interesting, G was one of the ones we talked about moving up, but that is specific to roof-mounted solar, but that also falls under potentially every tier, so I put it up into general. That's what we had talked about at
Yeah,
the
I
last
was
meeting,
saying
moving it up.
wherever, so then when we get down to permitting requirements for tier 1, do we want to call these additional conditions? I mean, there's the general requirements, not conditions, we better not call them conditions, right, because of our general conditions, but these are additional requirements, right? Permitting,
Right, you have to
Follow all the
Tier-specific.
tier-specific, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I can, if you go back up to,
Are we in 5, back in 5 now?
yeah, if you looked at H, so we talk about decommission, that was something we talked about referencing from, the town did that. We talk about decommissioning here, except we haven't introduced the concept of a decommissioning plan anywhere else, so maybe we should reference this specific section. You don't need a decommissioning plan for tier 1. The way that this is written now, you do for tier 2 and tier 3. Well,
Oh, right.
we haven't gone over tier 3, but in tier 2, it specifically calls out decommissioning plan. So do we
Right,
want to
because it's
reference
more commercial.
that, or do we want to move that down into tier 2 and tier 3? Because that
H,
is,
the whole H?
yeah, because that is tier specific. That is not a general, or do we want to make
Actually,
people have a
though,
decommissioning plan? Listen, if I'm gonna put 5 solar panels on my house, am I gonna have a decommissioning plan for that? It would be take
Well-
them off.
well,
If I
let-
have ground-mounted solar, that's entirely
I was
different,
gonna say that is
potentially.
different, because if they get damaged, you don't want them sitting out there damaged. I don't.
I don't blame you. I question how one wouldn't, I think sometimes it would be clear, but I think you could have some perfectly good panels that somebody disconnects because they just don't want to deal with it, or
that's-
something breaks inside the house. They look fine, they're not
As long as they're
operating.
not visually broken. They're visually pleasing, they're aesthetic still. Because I do remember being at a
Oh,
place once where there were some broken panels.
But this is,
specifically, this one, H is to capture the completion of the project. So maybe that is more,
Oh, completed.
yeah, that's what this one is for, yet completed and functional.
That's fair, I think. You don't want something left half done.
Yeah, does that make sense for it to be up here in general
Yeah, I
requirements?
think it does. I think it should have,
That's what we had talked about last time, I just wanted to review that.
I think it does, but
I was the one that I had captured some notes about last time, and I wasn't sure, rereading that, was this what we wanted to do? We had talked about, you know, if the ownership changes of a project, the new owner would assume all responsibilities of the special use permit, of what? I don't know if you had thoughts on that. You know, say I'm in the middle of the project and I decide to sell.
assumes all responsibilities for the solar energy system.
So I don't know
Building
whether that
permit.
needs to be stated or not.
But building permit,
I think actually it mostly comes up according to the decommissioning plan.
yeah,
Because the permit, if you've got a building permit and it's done, it's done.
Yeah, right.
You know, but really, it's to make sure that the next owner understands that they have responsibilities to remove them responsibly.
Well, and that's what we talked about too, because if you looked at the decommissioning plan, it was,
under
it
two,
was, you know, providing a financial security bond and decommissioning plan, and so
Right.
that's kind of where this all stems from. I took out the, you know, not less than $50,000 piece out of that. But, so we could, I don't know if we need to state that here, or maybe we move it, maybe we just move it under decommissioning plan. Again, because
that is kind of something
that's more specific to,
that plan,
you know, that the decommissioning plan goes with whoever the owner operator is.
I think that makes sense, because most of our applications are going to be for tier one, I'm assuming, and so that's just going to complicate things if it's there with everything else.
so you're saying take H out of here? No.
No, take I.
I, sorry.
I
Move it down into tier 2.
and presumably tier 3.
But, you know, you do beg the question, in H at the end, implement the decommissioning plan, so that kind of implies that you have one. So.
I mean, it's copy and paste.
We can put it in both sections, it's on.
You know, when we've had certain things in the past, and I know Brent has always said, we want this on the plans, so that anybody who takes over this property understands that there's this issue out there that may come forward at some point.
Could it be as simple as changing the to an A? Because the decommissioning plan implies that there's a specific plan in place, and a decommissioning plan is like, oh, I have to do that, and it doesn't exist yet, but I'll make it happen.
Except that implement the decommissioning, what is the decommissioning plan?
The decommissioning plan only applies if you're in one of the higher tiers. So if we want this to apply, if we want the rest of the language to apply to people in tier one as well, having the decommissioning plan doesn't make sense.
In a general requirement.
Can we think of any instance where it might be important? This is roof mounted, right, only? No,
No, this is anything that's tier 2 or 2.
tier one, we're talking, I thought we're still
So
general.
this is, but H is
Right now, under general
Yes,
requirements, so this would
that
apply to
be
everything.
Everything, including ground-mounted residential. I think there should be a decommissioning plan for ground-mounted, period.
Okay. So then we have to add some of that
I
language.
mean, when they're just no longer, they're just kicking out there, just,
Right, but tier one is roof-mounted residential.
that's what, yeah, okay. So.
Tier two is ground-mounted residential.
That's where, okay, that's what I thought. So it's just the roof, no, roof mounted is fine with me.
Well, it also says an on-farm solar energy systems, which could be
Right.
either.
Yeah. In that case, but that's kind of a different category.
Can't you put something in front of that, in front of H saying applies to tier 2 and 3?
If that's,
But under general requirements?
Except we don't want something to be partially started, that's part of the problem. We want to just get rid of the decommissioning part. And if it's not completed and functioning, and leave it,
Or do we want to include something in the number 6, in the tier 1 section, to capture any tier 1 ground-mounted needs decommissioning plan?
is it likely that somebody would start on a roof and not finish it? And would we care? Just get everything up except the panels, like just have the things that hold the panel, would we care? It is unlikely, isn't it?
I wouldn't doubt anything.
That was,
Any? Oh, God. I
How
don't,
about something, maybe I'm behind here, but on a decommissioning plan and then add language, and I think council will have to fine tune this, but then reference the various sections as a decommissioning plan as set forth in the, applicable provision governing the type of solar system. So if it's a 2, it would be that kind of plan. If it's a category 3, it would be the type of plan set forth there. Does that sound feasible, or?
yeah, I think so. I mean, I can add that in there, and we can take a look at it in the next go-round, too. I think that might do it.
well.
To implement a
the thing is,
decommissioning plan as set forth, and yeah.
how long, a building permit is good for how long?
You build it in 1 year.
Okay, so this already exceeds that. Now
Yeah.
that I think about it, so that if it requires a building permit and it's not completed within a year,
You could renew the building permit.
exactly. Right? Am I thinking about that right? Yeah.
You can always renew it after a year, yeah.
But they have to come in and do that.
They have to come in and do it, but I don't have to renew it if there's not significant,
So maybe this is,
if they aren't moving along on it significant, I don't have to renew it.
so maybe this isn't important at all here. Yeah. So we still have some control of that then, theoretically. He does, yeah. Okay, whatever you guys decide.
Well, I'll put some new language in there, and we can see what it looks like, and then we can review that at the next meeting, and maybe it comes out, or maybe we shorten it.
What about the change of ownership thing?
So that one,
Hanging out there a little.
yeah, that one I'll add down into the decommissioning plan section for tier 2 and tier 3, and just say that,
Assumes.
on change of ownership, the new owner operator assumes all responsibilities of, any decommissioning plan.
Maintenance and decommissioning.
So my question for you is this, are there no decommissioning plans required at all for any tier 1?
It's not in there now.
Do we want any decommissioning plans in there?
So those are residential roof mounted
And farm,
and farm, yeah.
and on-farm solar energy systems, so that could be either. And frankly, the farm ground-mounted is
Could be a
where,
problem.
is where decommissioning is actually the most important.
Yes, it is. Why don't we leave it?
Put some language in tier 1 about it. And I can copy the same language too. If you look at it, it says that, the planning board may require a decommissioning plan or bond. Necessarily, right? So if somebody came up and said, I want to put 8 solar panels on my roof, we can say, great, you don't need a solar decommissioning plan. Or maybe you do, for whatever
Should
reason.
officially waive it, should be on the record, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Always better to do that than to have it be questionable.
Okay,
The use of the shall be thing,
where are you?
permitting requirements for tier 1 solar energy,
Okay.
shall be permitted. And shall be subject. Do we always say shall be, or just are, or use? All tier 1 solar energy systems are permitted, shall be permitted. Shall we, shall we?
It's probably part of, it's part of the.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
It says this throughout.
And was gonna, yeah,
Change it all.
do we
Find and
say
replace.
shall be?
The U shall and the uniform code, they always use that, want to keep it as far as code language.
All over the place.
Lisa, it's like that through the whole thing.
What?
It says that through the whole,
I know it does. I know, it drives me crazy every time I come to it. It's like, shall, as opposed to
the formality.
shall apply to all. Okay,
I did.
pretty standard stuff here.
Under 7B standards.
That was just, I deleted to the extent.
Reasonably practicable,
Thank you.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
And then just move some of the language around, as determined by the planning board, a property operation maintenance plan that describes blah, 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 may be required.
Actually, it was somewhere else too, and I said, regional, you know, who determines whether it's.
No, some of
It's in here, I'm
There's
sure.
another one in here.
I'm just gonna go through and
Others,
find the word may anywhere, and, yeah.
under 7A, the first one, all tier 2 solar energy shall require a special permit. We just finished saying that up there. Do we need to say it again? All tier 2 solar energy shall be permitted in all, with special permit approval.
Mike brought that up too. I mean, under general requirements, we say, right, everything needs a building permit, and this need a special permit, so we can get rid of that.
Get rid
and-
of one, not because we've already restated it up there. One of the things I did actually, because wonder whether when we say permitting requirements for tier 1, restate what tier 1 is. I know it's unwieldy, but sometimes it saves you from, wait a minute, what, am I tier 1 or what, you know, it helps to just define it, but we can talk about that. It's just,
So just get rid of one, because.
yeah, it's A1 I would get rid of, and, you know, obviously.
Okay.
And I was gonna say must include, not shall include.
Anything else on that page on 156?
There's some consistent language stuff that we'll do that number 2.
So then that brings us up to the kind of big topic that's left, and that is
Yes.
the next tier up. And so this language here, I changed very little of it. I got rid of glare, and I think that's about glare, height, shall comply with height requirements. So I just got rid of some of that stuff, but most of this is out of the model solar law. So this is really meant to capture
Bigger things, and this is kind of where we started back with tier 1. The big thing in here, really, there's, you know,
timeframes and things like that. There's a GML 239. And then there's a bunch of definitions in here. Some of that we can clean up. The big thing in here, though, is it on 157 or 156?
157 is what, oh, I don't know what, I'm on. I don't have the red
Or
line.
157.
Oh, I didn't.
If you go to 158, that's where they talk about,
or where they start talking about at least.
you know, there's some bond stuff in there.
What are you looking for?
This is where they start talking about
Commissioning.
how big the system is. Why can't
Oh,
it-
that is, oh, yeah, I started to
I'm like, why am I not seeing
get
it?
a little, it's not until, I know,
I know it's in
it was
there.
megawatts and everything, yes.
Yeah, it's because it's right, it's another one of those pick your own adventure things.
Was it just in the definition?
Maybe that's,
It's in the tier 2, no, tier 2 is the one I'm thinking of with the nameplate capacity. That's up to 0.25 megawatts, which generate no more than 12. Okay, I don't know if it is in here, Mike.
I thought it was supposed to be, maybe not.
It just says in 3B, 8B3, as expressed in megawatts, but it doesn't,
Well, and so maybe we don't need to, I mean, if we've kind of got the restrictions for 1 and 2, this, if we're saying, well, 3 is everything else.
the one thing is when you start looking, this is, you get into like, one of them is like 10 acres. and
Right,
stuff,
there's
and
some
it's like,
big things in here, yeah.
well, so there are limited places in our village where that could happen, but we surely would want to be looking at that.
Yeah,
Even anything over, I would think an acre, frankly, myself, but that's a lot of coverage in our little village, frankly, but and if it's on a roof, like a major mall or whatever,
I mean, right, that's
would
a,
be, we talked about that then. So I don't know whether, one of the things here within, do we want to confine tier 3 to certain districts or not? As they did in the model law.
you may have was looking at the map back
Oh,
there.
this is a lot
Yeah.
size. Sundowns.
That's the big,
Yeah. But for example.
There's other ones in
There
there.
are though other parts, like over in your, on Bone, well, there's a big open space there, the orange.
Millcroft Phase 2, isn't that like a 20 or 40 acre, how big is Millcroft Phase 2? 42, that's a big lot.
If he didn't put something there, yeah, but it's not zoned
Wow,
for that, it would have to come.
It's all medium density.
But it's no houses, I mean, it would have to come before the board, of course.
well, yeah, but,
Is it in keeping, I mean, general conditions, right away, it doesn't pass, it's not in keeping with the neighborhood. You'd have to just say no on that one, I think. Huh?
It's a pretty subjective thing to rely on.
I know it is, but,
so I think one of the things that we, oh no, we already captured that, I was gonna say that uniform solar permits captured in the general.
the following table displays the size requirements of the lot for, doesn't say, oh, it's for tier 3 and 4.
Yeah. In the original model law, tier 4 is really the state regulated,
so-
or where it starts,
Yes, okay, so 3 is what we're really grappling with.
yeah.
But 2 acres. So this displays the requirements of the lot for ground-mounted solar energy systems to be permitted. Residential low density. Okay. Greater than or equal to 2 acres. So they don't allow it. And then it says agricultural / residential, greater than 5. So if I am in residential low density and I have a lot that's greater than or equal to 2 acres, I can put in a tier 3. Is that what this says? I have a little trouble with reading something.
Where are you looking?
I'm looking at appendix.
Oh, the
Lot
appendix.
size requirements.
And we haven't agreed that we're gonna use any of those appendixes either.
Right,
So appendix, lot size
but you
requirement.
see, when you
Right, yeah.
also then look at the setback requirements for that same thing,
Yeah, if you,
you
yep,
have some substantial setbacks that we are not talking about.
yeah.
So, I mean, maybe,
I don't see why you couldn't have it, tier 3 be allowed in all of your districts. I mean, if you're over 500 square feet, 500 square feet's not that big.
Right.
you know, that can really be put just about anywhere. Now, if you got something that's 600 square feet, you can still fit it in, and you still could have a ton of capacity to it, you could still have it on a 1 acre lot, it would still fit on there just fine.
So how about big would you think we could go?
Well, I mean, your definition of your solar is, or your definition of your tier 2,
Is up to.
Up to
up to
500.
500,
Yeah.
so if it's over that, then it automatically goes to tier 3.
Right, but then do we want to cap it at some point?
I don't know so much as you can.
I don't know if that's,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can.
I don't know.
Because, as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure you can't. There's a lot of like legal precedent right now with places, especially where they're trying to say, we don't want you to put solar in because we think it's ugly. You can't stop us from doing that because of state law. That's not here in New York, but other places, I imagine that New York State has some similar things. I don't think we can just flat out say, no, you can't.
And as we've talked, as technology goes along, probably the stuff will get smaller anyway.
Yep. Or more efficient, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say frankly, as big as you want it on your property, as long as it's buffered.
Buffered and, yes, and all the other stuff that we put in. I think that's probably the key, yeah. So we're saying all tier 3 solar energy systems are permitted through the issuance of a special delete use permit?
Yeah, this one I haven't gotten to yet.
Permit within all, we want to put it in all districts? Is that what we think?
I can't think of a compelling reason to not allow it. If you want to have, I mean, you know, anybody and everybody would benefit from having solar in whatever district they happen to be in, as long as they buffer it well.
Are there any concerns with like the steep slope? Districts?
That'll come under you, that'll come under all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if,
And we'd have to do the seeker and all that.
Yeah.
And whether it would be a matter of erosion and stuff.
which I mean, I'm sure, if, you know, they can put a tram in, I'm sure they can find a way to
I'm sure they,
mount these securely. It might be cost prohibitive, but I mean, if you want to put them in, I wonder about, you know, aesthetics of that though, from
the lake,
the lake.
I mean, we could pretty easily say in all except the UNAs. And then anybody who happens to be in a UNA would have to go with the tier 2.
Or they can go to the BZA and get a variance.
one of the things that I have noticed that they say in all districts, they often say including PDAs. I don't know whether we need to do that. 'Cause
Well,
some
doesn't a
people don't-
PDA take
it's-
on,
It's its own district.
I mean, it's its own district, but I thought that it took on some of the, I guess you can
I think you wouldn't
No,
want to.
ride, but,
You create your own.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would keep it separate myself, because some people don't understand the difference between PDAs and regular districts, and keep trying to claim that it's part of a so-and-so district, and it really
It's
isn't,
not,
it's its own
thing.
district. So I think maybe if we're gonna say all districts, including PDAs, would cover it.
so all districts, including PDAs?
And do we want to say anything for the steep sloped areas and the UNAs along the side there?
I don't know, I think, it depends, I think your argument is sound before, right? I can't, it might just be, I don't necessarily have anything against it, I think there's just more, there's already other restrictions in place for wanting to do things there anyway, so I think
There
that
are
covers
restrictions already,
concerns
yeah.
that I would have. And it's not so much restrictions as, hey, if you want to do this, there's a lot more you have to walk through,
Yeah,
which we've been through
It will
before.
capture a lot of it.
Yeah, we went through that with some of the tram projects, and it was fine.
Yeah.
They did their due diligence, they
they have it
had
done.
people come in that, you know, what they needed to do, and it was fine.
So within all districts,
Including PDAs,
yeah,
subject to site plan application requirements, yep.
set forth in the section. The application. Is 30 days enough?
Applicant shall be advised within 30 days of the completeness of their application or any deficiencies that must be observed.
Completeness, yeah.
Yeah, or any deficiency, that's fine.
Okay.
Subject public hearing to hear all comments for and against the application.
So that's one of those things, do we have to put that in there, because that's what a public hearing's for? Like,
Oh, shall be
So I wonder-
subject to a public hearing, period.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Again, there.
Do we want to say that separately from whatever the public hearing?
Well, that's my point, like, we're gonna have a public hearing anyway, right? That's a special permit, you
special.
have to have a public hearing.
Oh, I see what
Do
you're
we
saying,
need this
yes.
at all?
Yeah, I kind of think we don't need that, because you already have public hearings structured within.
Right, like
The
that's
special
just part of
permit.
the special permit process.
Right.
and we took a lot of that stuff out before, or Mike did on his first go through, and you haven't had a chance to look at this, so.
Yeah, and honestly, if I read that, I would ask, do I need 2 public hearings now?
Yeah,
Same thing with GML 239, like, that's part of that process.
That's
that can
right.
go.
That's my
Are
opinion.
they just trying to sort of remind us that all these things that, I don't know.
The next piece too, upon, completion, we have 60 days,
have that
that's,
already.
and we had clarified some of that language in the code recently. Yeah.
60 days, is that in accordance with ours?
Yeah, I thought it was
60,
Because
because
this
didn't
is
we
where-
go through and then we had to we had Natalie,
We changed
yeah.
that because of our Millcroft,
Yes.
yeah, because there was a little bit of, there really wasn't any confusion in our mind, but there was in
Yeah.
some other people, so we clarified that.
And so if there's only one thing under A, I'll probably clean that up a little bit, and not have just one bullet point.
Right.
A, I think I'll just go ahead and modify A. So what about all these requirements for site plan review, Mike? Are these just, well, some of them aren't, right? Some of them, under site plan review, we don't normally say, hey.
Do we usually list, well, I guess we do.
Yeah, but we wouldn't normally, like, for example, 3 nameplate capacity, we wouldn't normally require that under site plan review.
That would be on the uniform whatever.
Yes,
I think I need to go through and take a look at tier 3 and cross-reference it with the
okay.
Code, yeah, I think you're right.
the unified.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
would say, this is all gonna be covered by, that's what
I was gonna say, anything that's here that's, we can just take out, kind of like we talked about public hearing stuff that we have, or there might be some things in here, like maybe nameplate capacity does have to be in here, unless it's captured on the unified solar permit, then we don't need it. If a 1 or 3 line electrical diagram detailing the solar energy system is in the, unified solar permit, we don't need that here either. We'll get that
Let me
by,
go through and
Okay.
go through your tiers, because that's a beast right now, and it could be cut down.
yeah, and, yeah, I mean, if you look at this one compared to, well, any of the other ones. Okay.
And then on to decommissioning plan?
That one, yeah, so that one, did they cover that later?
they do here. Yes, the next page.
Yeah, so if you look under like 7, which was tier 2, we have a separate thing for decommissioning plan, a separate
This
thing
one
for
has a
environmental
separate one.
resources, yeah. Well, this one's under, yeah, so I think that
Needs to stay. It's just, I think it's formatting. I think the formatting is.
Needs to be
a little weird for
made
that.
parallel, yeah.
So, right, yes, we should keep a lot of those similar things that we have in 2, right? We do need,
the, property and operations maintenance plan, we do need a decommissioning plan.
But again, there's so much detail here.
I almost wonder for, this one, there's especially a lot of detail for the decommissioning plan. I wonder if we can just say, hey, you need it, reference this appendix, because then we can also go and update that appendix, right? We talked about this before, there's,
Without changing the whole
without
thing.
changing the whole local law, hey, here's this, but, as we have
Appendix.
appendices, need to update things, we can go and update them there.
Because,
and this says that same thing, this is like that,
Bond or security, 150% of the cost, shall be revisited every 5 years, yeah, we might want to.
oh, special use permit standards. Okay, so this, and here they also call it special permit standards instead of requirements.
We have standards up in 7, or up in, somewhere there's.
Oh, here it is, it is
Yes,
7B
yeah, B,
standards.
yeah.
but I think there's some other things in here.
Here too, that we haven't referenced anywhere else, like, right, when you talk about underground requirements, vehicular path signage, I think those are things that, we talked, I think this is the one, was this the one that talked about lighting, yeah, lighting?
Oh, yeah.
Talked about,
What's gonna be on a larger scale facility versus a potentially larger scale facility,
And signage,
yeah. We talked about that with, like, the BEST system.
Yeah.
And the fire departments, and what training or manuals, what they need for that. We might want to build something in here, I think we'd mentioned this last time too, depending, right, say that this was a large-scale one.
Yes.
we might want to and I don't know if we capture it here, we probably should. You know, I think Tesla, was the best, those two best systems are Tesla?
Yeah.
They were very, you know, forthcoming and helpful about, yes, we'll offer training. What if the next company's not? I would imagine if it's some large-scale thing, we would want them to, you know, require them to offer training to the local, you know, first responders for things like that.
They have general training now for
Okay.
the best systems, matter of fact.
But what about a large-scale solar facility?
That I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's another one of them in Lansing.
So-
Like, well, there's not in the village at least, and it depends on who responds.
So we might want to factor that in here somewhere, too.
Yeah, because this was all, so the screening and visibility, this is where what is extent reasonably practicable. And I'm thinking, you know,
Well, instead of,
Beating ourselves over the head with this, do we want Mike to take a stab at it? And there's some things in here that I can clean up too, based off what you find.
yeah, probably,
And we can include that in the next draft.
yes.
There was one other item that was a little bit, you might have to scratch, and that's in 7, B1.
7B1, lot coverage,
Yeah. It says it must adhere to lot coverage requirements of the underlying zoning district. You can't really classify, well, let's put it this way. Lot coverage is the percentage of lot area covered by a building or buildings. And a building is described as
these are accessory structures.
any structure designed for shelter and enclosure of human activities or storage of
it's not an
warehouses.
accessory building.
It's not classified as a building, so.
Is there a way to rephrase that? So
You do one of two things, either you strike it out of here, or you add to the definition of building in here, a solar panel of
I thought it was accessory, it's an accessory building.
accessory building, but it's not included in
in
your.
lot coverage requirements.
Yeah, it's round and round you go.
I can't handle this. I can't handle it. This is too much for me. Oh, my gosh.
So, like I said,
Yeah.
Which section are you at?
sorry?
Which section
It
are
was
you on?
seven,
We could put in a line saying that,
standards.
you know, while not technically a building,
Oh, one, gotcha.
area of solar panel, ground-mounted solar panels will be added to lot coverage amounts or something like that.
I mean, but is it saying, I mean, I get, right, it depends on how you,
Okay, so
We're saying that a tier 2 solar energy system
which in this case, say it's a ground mounted,
has to require
the lot coverage requirements.
in the underlying zoning district.
okay, so,
So here's your underlying
Zoning district, the lot, pretend it's a building, there's your lot coverage requirements.
okay.
We can't just pretend it's a building.
What is the coverage? I mean, is it the guys hold, just the structure?
Well, we had this
holding it
discussion
up,
too,
or
is it the two
shop?
pylons?
Yes,
Is it these-
exactly.
Is it the square footage, right, it's
Or
what you
is
can
it-
draw a box around.
Is it
It's
the
those two
shadow
pylons.
that it casts when the sun is overhead?
Right, it's not the square footage of the panel flat, it's not the square footage of the
It's
panel at an
the-
angle, it's really the.
It's the
support
bloody
structure.
legs that's holding it up, that's it.
Which isn't much.
I'm just following the dots on this, that lot
think-
coverage, the
Yeah.
definition of lot
I
coverage.
think that's a good
Definition
point
of building.
myself.
So just take it out?
Well, I guess, yeah, I guess, so solar panels are always gonna comply with your lot coverage, because there's not much to them.
That's right.
So is that an issue?
Yeah.
That's what you're looking
It's
at.
not, can it be?
If it's not an issue, then it doesn't matter if it's.
Well, okay, so here's a hypothetical. Let's say someone's like, I've got a couple of acres and I'm gonna follow my setbacks. And from the moment I hit my setback, I'm just gonna fill all the rest of my property with solar panels.
They can.
They can, and do we have a problem with that?
Yes, I have a
Do
problem.
we want to regulate that?
Well, if you're gonna be in here for a special permit, you do have the power to say, no, that's a special permit.
I guess
Like
it
said
depends
before,
on where it
it's
is.
a privilege, not, I
And what if they just buffer everything?
mean, they
They're
can,
like, we're gonna plant thick evergreens in the setbacks.
I'm sorry, but those evergreens would die with them, Adelgid, I mean, come on, nope, fence?
Okay, I'll put a
Fencing
fence, I'll put a fence and evergreens, and I'm gonna
does the fence
cover
have to
every
be?
other inch with solar panels. Is that okay?
The fence has to be high enough, then we're into that, and then it shades it, so, uh-oh.
I'm gonna build
And the buil-
Stonehenge around my property.
That sounds okay.
But so it sounds like we can take this out of here, because we're,
Yeah.
Kind of covered elsewhere anyway.
or,
somebody can, argue.
Change.
It's up to
Yeah.
you, somebody can
yep,
come up with an argument if they really want to with it.
Oh, yeah, no, that'd be clear. I mean, it's not the panel.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be covered.
No, I.
So we should just strike any lot.
Yeah, that's my point,
You
is
know, you
because.
you can sit here and beat yourself up forever. There's always gonna be something.
There's something.
around Something or challenge somehow that we're going to learn about that we're gonna have to.
Right.
redo.
Much similar to the, you know, the tree, let's just call it the tree law. It's law, and I already think there's some things that we realize that we want to go back and modify about it, and that's fine.
I always call this the sleeping beauty thing, because, you know, you can banish all the spindles in the kingdom, but there's gonna be one that gets left behind. And there always is gonna cause a problem. I mean, there's always, you can't think of everything. This is people we're talking here, you know?
Okay,
Yep.
so then,
Visibility was next.
There you go.
in lieu of, you know, Mike taking a stab at going through 8, that leaves us with enforcement and. that was
Where are you?
8, on the last page.
8, where?
That's the thing, I mean, that's just pretty, all the way on the last page.
I don't have the.
160.
It's called 8 enforcement, it's after tier 3.
Enforcement, Ronnie. I was,
That's standard. Do we need to do we specifically call that out in all the other local laws that we've implemented, do you know, or not?
No, it should be more than that.
including the civil and criminal.
I think it's-
background, the zoning. I think it's,
It's stated in the building code, I think, chapter 7. That any violation of, and I'm paraphrasing, any violation of either the uniform code or village code is subject to a certain penalty, blah, blah, blah.
100 days in jail.
So I don't know, should we repeat it, or?
I'm okay with, I mean, it's short and sweet here, it's not, you know, some huge
I
section that
think
we're
it should
repeating
be,
that's already
it
covered.
should be the same as
But-
what we say.
I know you can tell us anything.
I have a question as to whether, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, rather than enforcement requirements, because I think you're talking about mechanisms. And unless I'm missing something, or methods, or provisions, would that be a better term to use?
then enforcement?
No, the requirements, it says enforcement requirements, and I was,
Oh, enforcement requirements, the word requirements.
or as opposed to enforcement methods or enforcement procedures or.
Or just enforcement.
Or just enforcement, maybe, yeah.
Enforcement works too. Shall be subject to the same but it does hang out there. Enforcement what?
Just,
Where's another something in our code?
Shall be subject to the same means of enforcement.
Penalties? Shall be enforced.
Chapter 75-16 has your violations.
Right, is the intent of this law to be folded into your zoning code?
Yes.
Yes,
You don't want anything you always want to be referring back.
right.
Yes.
Because
So,
if
right.
it says one word different, us lawyers will pick it apart
I
and
want
say,
that one
you
versus
made it
this one, yeah.
different because of A, B, and C. So I would suggest just a refer.
Well, and that's kind of why I asked, do we, you know, like,
You don't
and we can go back and look at the tree law, but what did we do in the tree law? Did we specifically write something like this, or did we just, I
refer it
think
back.
that we referred, we refer, so that's what we should do here.
refer to what?
Your zoning code, whatever
Oh.
your enforcement
Yeah.
is in here,
The
so.
the general thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Governs
it's
everything.
75-16, if you want to.
Say it again?
But if you refer to the code, it's in the village code.
I think we should refer, I think it's always good to refer, because I want to go back and look at it,
Yeah,
and I never know where to find stuff, you know?
yep.
Well, if it ever gets updated, you don't have to
Exactly.
Well,
update.
that's the thing, yeah, we talked about that last time too, be like, let's not put that in here, because anytime that village law change, I forget what it was, now we're gonna have to come and change this every time, so yeah, no.
So we just refer to the enforcement.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Should enforcement be number 9 instead of 8?
probably, yeah.
yes, because there was another eight,
There was another 8 that I deleted there first.
and then I guess it becomes 10.
So I'm kind of getting most of this, but not all of it. So what was the language we're ending up with?
So we're just gonna have it refer to, our just zoning code for, you know, the general way that we enforce everything else, whether it's the tree law or this law or any other law, we'll just refer to that language in general, in the general zoning code.
And
So
what,
you mean something like the solar the solar array law shall be enforced as set forth in the zoning code or something along those lines.
Yeah, I'll get the language out of the zoning code and I'll specifically state what it is there, yeah. Not the actual full length of it, but say, refer to, 7516 violations, there you go.
7516.
Yeah,
Okay. Severability,
severability.
the same thing.
Did you have more questions, Wendy?
Yeah, just a couple comments if you want me to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kind of go through. Nothing like the last person here, kind of giving some thoughts. With your title, in the code, it's zoning officer, so you want to, again, you always want to make it consistent back to your zoning code, because anytime there's any distinction, it gives lawyers fun things to argue about.
We finally know your title. No.
That's what I was trying to get to it. So it's called zoning officer?
Yep, zoning officer in here, that's the title, and all my municipalities have the exact same issue, like, that's not on my paycheck, I'm really A, B, and C under whatever the civil service situation is, but under the code, you always want to go back to that, because really, as the zoning officer, that gives you the authority to interpret it, so I would keep with that. It is special permit, I think you were picking up on that, because that's the language there. On the change of ownership, the way a lot of, when you're setting up this law, you're really looking at the big ones. You're spending a lot of time kind of thinking through the little issues, but you want to make sure that you've got the teeth that you need if someone comes in with a really big project. And you may have a situation where you want to know who that new owner is, because let's say you're looking at large solar projects, where I've represented solar people and represented the boards. The person that comes in and gets the approval is the nicest person in the world, and is gonna talk to you and say all these things, it's gonna be great, but that may not be the person that's actually constructing it or doing the decommissioning plan. So you may want to have a mechanism such that there's a notification if there is a change in ownership, just so that, once the approval is done, before you get to that decommissioning plan, so that change of ownership, you might want to just think about that, getting that a little bit quicker. You're right, it runs with the land, so the new owner should understand.
And there's some default, this was more of a fill in the blank about what we wanted to, there's language in there that specifically calls out the owner operator and shall notify. I just didn't put that all in here, because I didn't know what direction we were gonna go, so that is, just for everyone else, that if you take a look at the language, especially if you take a look at the towns, they call out something very similar to what Wendy just mentioned.
And also, each community is different. There's solar laws that are very favorable, and there's solar laws that are a little bit more stringent, and I don't know you guys well enough to know kind of which way you're leaning, so I'm just kind of pointing out some of the key things that.
Cautiously optimistic, is that a?
Yeah.
What did we decide? It's not, we don't want to discourage it.
Right.
I think we wanted to encourage it, we don't want to promote it, though, like, it's very much like, it's not our job to.
Promote solar,
Yeah,
but if
say
somebody
correct.
wants to do it, like,
No, that's
great, I
right.
Just
think
do it
that's
right,
awesome, yeah.
to do
Just
it the right way.
yeah.
And one of those, doing it the right way is to make sure that you know who the owner is. Decommissioning plan is by far the most important thing that you'll deal with. You want to keep
Yeah.
that super strong.
And there is that's not in this, but I'll put it in for the next round. The model, actually, I think I sent everyone the model law. There is a template that they
Yeah.
provided that we can take a look at one of the subsequent meetings and say, and it has a lot of stuff in there, so that's good.
And also keep your flexibility that you may require it, because there may some you need and
Yes.
some you don't need, so.
You talking about this one?
Yes.
Yeah, it was appendix.
Yes, it's one of the appendices, yep.
Because that's always the concern from a community, is it gets to the end of the useful life and it's sitting there and it's
just
eyesore.
left
Right.
You need to, make sure that you know what to do with the decommissioning. The tier ones you have in here, that they're allowed in ag and residential, do you want them in other places as well?
I think it's,
I wasn't sure if it was allowed everywhere.
I think it's,
Tier one is
everywhere.
allowed in all districts,
Yeah.
isn't it? Roof mounted?
Yeah, because I think it was a statement shall be, it says shall be permitted in residential and agricultural zoning districts.
Oh, tier one?
in all residential and agricultural zoning districts.
Does that mean, is it intended to exclude other areas, or are you just emphasizing the fact that they can be?
We were trying to, because it only requires a building permit, we wanted to be sure if it was gonna be any commercial at all, we wanted them to come for a special permit, is that how I'm remembering?
Okay, yep, so I just, when I first read this, it sounded like it's only allowed in residential and
It is.
agricultural.
Well, it is.
It is.
It is.
What you talked about was having your roof mounted in a commercial
Then what do I do?
to be under tier 2.
Gotcha.
So you come here, right? So, yes.
Perfect, okay, thank you,
Yeah,
yep, so I
if you
understand
go
that
to
now.
tier 2, it is
Yeah.
ground-mounted, commercial, and commercial roof-mounted. We just wanted to be certain that commercial was
Right.
handled differently than
In
residential.
perfect.
Yeah.
So that we were.
So that we were informed about what's going on.
Gotcha, now I understand. The 30 days and the
Oh, yeah.
60 days, those make me nervous, because I never want anybody to say it's a default approval. You know, when does that 30 days start? So that's why I was quickly
Oh.
flipping through your current code, and you have it 62 days from the close of your public
That's what
hearing.
it is.
We should.
That's for a decision, though, right?
Right,
This one, at least this one here, under 8.1, is advised within 30 days of the completeness of their application.
what if you don't get to it? And I
Yeah,
would make
that's
that-
true, yeah.
If I'm the applicant, I would be like, it's complete, so that just caused me a little bit of angst when I
You
looked through
just
it.
take it out then?
Yeah, because you want to be able, you want to keep the power that if you feel you need something, especially if you have to do seeker, I mean, you may,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with
you may
Yeah.
be moving along, and all of a sudden you do need something.
Well, and there's been times that I know we've canceled, I don't know if we've ever canceled 2 meetings in a row, but we probably have, and that, actually, I think we have, and that would take up the,
So.
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
be-
exactly, so just to kind of keep.
so under 8.1, get rid of
Just
the,
be advised of the completeness of their application by this code.
or do we just take it out of there and say,
However you guys normally deal with it, again, those always make me nervous, completeness, because it
Right.
feels like a very legal thing that's not actually required to do. But I don't know how if there's anything in your traditional code on whether or not you do that for special permits. If you don't, I would keep it silent, because you want to keep that flexibility. Again, and I'm always looking at, kind of the worst case scenario, if you got a.
So-
and we can just say, so for that one, it would just be,
Reviewed by the planning board.
for completeness.
Yeah.
There you go, because that is what we do.
Of course.
Yeah, so we do, always do
So you
that.
can keep it in there.
Yeah, but then I'll get rid of the, shall be advised within 30 days.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What about, reviewed by the planning board for completeness
I would just full stop.
and stop
Yeah,
there?
there you go.
And that's good, because that also takes a little bit of pressure off your zoning officer, to say whether
Loves the
or not.
pressure.
He-
Because honestly, you can get yourself into a situation where you think you got everything, and then all of a sudden it gets to the board, and they're like, oh, I need to see better screening or something like that, so keep with the planning board.
Somebody's bound to speak up something. With this crew. That's about it. Well, great.
Do we have to do anything with severability, by the way? Just, okay.
Well, your standard, once this turns into
Right.
an actual local law, there's gonna be standard language that will pop in, so that's fine as a placeholder.
Okay.
I'll also look at the decommissioning and how it's worded with our telecommunications, try to somewhat
Oh,
keep it.
right, there was that
We
piece.
have, for telecommunications section, we have a decommissioning program, if we can keep it somewhat simple.
Yeah, we should always try to have the same language, I think.
Yeah,
But that one I know is like
Here's-
3 pages long, I mean, it can be,
The telecommunication.
I bet a lot of it's the
Half of
same,
it's
and then maybe we
always
can put some, instead of like creating a whole new separate thing specific for this, because who knows, maybe with a battery and a BESS system, we're gonna have a decommissioning plan for that. It would be nice if we fold them all into very similar, like, here's our decommissioning plan, here's the things you have to do for everything, but if it's telecommunications, here's some special stuff, solar, BESS, maybe
Additional
there's.
requirement,
Yeah,
they call-
just depending on, yeah, maybe that makes it cleaner,
A general
yeah,
decommission.
yeah.
Yeah.
Here's everything you have to do no matter what, and oh, by the way, it's solar, so you also have to do these 4 things, or,
Although sometimes, as I've said, I think it's, I don't know.
sometimes it's cleaner to keep stuff separate.
Yeah, sometimes it does make a pretty large document, though.
Yeah.
I'm just a fan of having it right in front of me, so I can't miss it. I didn't see that,
Anything else on this? So I'll make some updates that we talked about. Mike will take a crack at 8,
Removing some stuff that is redundant.
Good, yeah. so that we can
And-
pare it down a little.
and then I'll go back through once I have that from you, because you're probably doing it quicker than me. And I'll kind of add in some of the other things that we've done elsewhere anyway.
all right, give me 30 days.
That's just for completeness, right?
162?
Yeah. Well, that's when you have to, that's when you have to make a decision by after.
But no, that's a
And
good,
actually you
that's a good
don't.
point, that's a good point. By
Yeah,
the time-
we clarified some of that stuff last time.
Yeah, we had to.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had to,
Yeah.
because it was very obvious that we were interpreting it a little differently.
Yeah. Okay, next item on the agenda is the trustee report, Lisa.
Okay, so I was on deck for that, and basically, they approved the minutes of March 20th. And then there was a public hearing for the proposed local law, the tax override, because all this stuff going on I guess, in Albany. They do this every year. They just vote that should it be necessary to, have an override, they are allowed to do so. So they think that it might possibly happen this year, depending on what's going on. So they also then they continued the public hearing for the budget and then adopted the budget. They set the election date for April the 25th, which is Tuesday, Tuesday, 2 weeks from tomorrow?
Yep.
12 to 9 in next door, so everybody vote
Meeting is, right?
for our mayor and 2 trustees. And let's see, there was also, they approved training for NICOM. They passed.
The 25th is 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought I said. And
Double checking.
Lorraine, I think you're going to be going? Are you going to
I'm
that?
going.
Yamella's.
No, I can't.
Mill is going to New York
Yes.
Planning Federation, but this is for NICOM. The mayors, the New York Commission of Mayors or something like that. And so I think it was Carolyn, Drew, and Susan are going
Oh, okay.
to that. And then they also talked about, I never don't want to, spoiler alert, but they talked about honoring Pat in some way. And then they talked about, I don't know if I understood, I was on Zoom again, about a garbage committee. Susan, what was that garbage committee thing about?
There was some suggestion about, I think it was Drew, the cost of garbage pickup.
Oh, okay.
And so he corrected, it was a quarterly payment rather than a monthly payment. And I think Carolyn.
Yes.
And there didn't need to be a special committee to look into it. They were just going to explore what other municipalities were doing, the costs of other contractors in the village.
Okay, thank you, because it was just sort of, I'm in favor of the garbage committee, and it's like, I think I'm out of the loop on this one. There wasn't a lot of explanations, so I wasn't sure what was going on. And then they did go into executive session. On the 17th, there is going to be a discussion about the homeless. There's in general for the county, I think. Only I don't know anything more about that. But that's on the 17th. I don't know if it's.
So that's a week from today.
Yeah, so it's at their meeting, I believe.
Okay.
So I will be covering that, so maybe I can bring back.
So not just the village, the whole county?
I think it's for, it's for education within our village, but, it's not just our problem, obviously, it's
Yeah,
everybody's
right,
problem.
yeah.
So, and that was pretty much it.
Okay. So you've got the other meeting this month. Sorry.
I do. Yeah, next week is the 7th. The 17th will be their meeting.
Yep. Okay, next item on the agenda is other business. Yamila?
No other business other than I will not be here for a couple of weeks. I'm heading up to the West Coast to see my son,
Oh, good.
For you?
Where?
Victoria, BC.
Oh, neat.
Good. Well, enjoy.
We'll miss you. Don't forget to come back.
I believe me. I like it here.
Lisa?
No, I don't think so.
Sorry?
No, yeah, nothing.
Jim?
I don't have anything.
How about our code officer?
Yeah, do you have any good stuff for us?
Not a whole lot from the planning board. I haven't had anything big, which is surprising. I mean,
Zoning
it's
officer.
never been this low.
Zoning officer.
Zoning officer.
Oh, excuse me,
All right, please.
CEO,
CEO for you.
the CEO. Well,
Yeah, it is kind of.
This is
been-
kind of,
I will say that, yeah, it really is. It will, yeah, I'm sure.
I mean,
I feel.
It is nice to be able to focus on this.
It
though.
is
We've had a
great.
few
Oh.
meetings to do that, which is outstanding.
actually, I forgot the most important part about the trustee thing is Carolyn gave a report to the trustees that we're making terrific progress and that they should expect to see this code shortly. So we better get cracking.
I mean, if we make the same progress we have on the other tiers, I mean,
It's possible.
I would hope by, yeah, I mean, So that maybe end of May, that's 3 more meetings. It depends on what else comes up, but I would hope, we can, yeah.
I mean, we should be the next meeting or the meeting after have the beers back again.
So we better hurry up,
Where they put
I'll have
because then that's gonna,
that property.
Sit down and go over what's going on with that. Also,
well, when Natalie had her big
Yes,
boy,
yes.
Sebastian,
Yeah.
cute.
no, we should think about also after this, when you get done with the solar, what you want to attack next.
I know what Carolyn would say. Short-term rentals.
I think,
But there can be other
I would
thoughts.
really like to circle back to the tree thing a little bit. And
I think
the
we can do that.
residential,
Yeah.
you know, I really
Yeah.
think we ought to, and anything else that we think, and just finish it.
That's fine,
Just
yeah.
finish it.
Yeah, that should be pretty quick, too. I think the bulk of it's, and I think there's a couple things, we wanted to change anyway, so.
Yeah, well, the one thing in particular was when your neighbor came,
Yeah.
remember? And that, I mean, I didn't feel that was fair that he had to put trees in to remodel a structure that's already there.
Yeah.
No, except that
And
he
we
was,
wanted to, well, we all thought we had put language in,
yes,
gave the board the power to waive certain things, and it never made it into the final law. So that's one of those things we should go back and fix.
at any rate, but actually, he was perfectly happy to
Yeah.
put street
Yeah.
trees.
He was.
Yes,
Right.
but we need
Next
to be
time.
sure that everybody is perfectly happy.
Yeah,
But I mean, our job isn't to make everybody happy.
no.
And there, in fact, oh,
That'd be a bad job.
I don't know as anybody else gets the Ithaca Journal, but I still get the paper version because I like to read the funnies. And I meant to, well, sorry, but the Wizard of Id today was a perfect, we ought to take this and put it right in here with our tree thing. I'm gonna send it to you. I'll take a picture, send it to you.
Okay.
It's just 2 little panels. It was good, because it reminds you that the trees don't really belong to us personally. They belong to all of us. It's one of the, there's this, what is it, nature has its own rights kind of thing, the rights of nature. At any rate, it's just a good reminder that it's important.
But so, right, there are a couple things. There's the tree law we wanted to circle back to. There are short-term rentals, there's battery energy systems, there's also accessory
Parking
structures.
lot,
And parking
I
lots.
really want to.
I have a list of these, by the way. This is,
I have a list of them too.
But I think there are a lot of, have been, well, I don't know, Mike, you've
there's more things on there too.
been complaining about the short-term rental. I think that's been an issue for quite a while, right? People that are established here, living in neighborhoods where all of a sudden half the houses in their neighborhood are short-term.
Yes,
I mean, I know people that aren't happy about that.
I do too.
People are coming and going, they have no idea who they are.
I have a neighbor, my immediate neighbor is an Airbnb.
There's not a lot you can do.
And then across the street, they just put in their Airbnb,
Who did?
where Mark used to live. That's a 2-family, it's right across the street from me.
Is,
Yeah, well,
That's another-
they're occupied on the first floor, and the second floor is an Airbnb, and that new parking space they built is specifically for Airbnb clients.
but they are residing.
They
in
are
there.
residing.
I feel a little differently about that, as
Yeah.
long as they are on the property, because, and I have no complaints with my particular situation either, except that the neighborhood is different when it becomes all these. That's my biggest, the loss of a neighborhood is my greatest concern, because I wouldn't mind calling the cops if there's a problem.
We just have to make sure that we don't try to put something out there that's not enforceable.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, the other big concern is that as there are more and more Airbnbs, there's less housing stock available. and
Well,
that
that's
causes
another.
global issues.
Yeah, we have, which ties into the whole thing we're gonna talk about on the 17th, the homelessness. I mean, the whole thing just, it's all part of the same.
I will run down everything that I have on the list of things that we said, so short-term rentals, in terms to go with short-term rentals. The residential tree ordinance, special permit updates, which I think we might actually be done with. Accessory building, we wanted to review that because there's a bunch of stuff there. We wanted to review the chart of uses.
Oh, yeah, we need to do that. because there's-
Comprehensive plan. A parking lot design, drive-through and takeout information. We talked about potentially some grant writing opportunities, design guidelines for subdivisions, commercial tree ordinance, fee schedule for special permit items, walkways versus sidewalks, flag lots, and subdivision square footage for like, Mike had already done this for, road frontage and things like that. being able to subdivide. So those were some of the things that are on the list. Some of them are done, actually.
Wow, that's a lot, that's a lot. That's like 20 years worth of stuff right there.
Not if everybody does a little, nobody has to do a lot. Yeah. Some of those are sort of smaller.
Yes, yes.
Like,
Yeah, they're not all like this, thank
no,
goodness.
but I do think the tree thing, we should clean it up.
Should definitely do the tree thing, only because, and especially because it wasn't that long ago when it came up.
No, and
I'm fine with that.
we still,
Make that number one.
and then, but short-term rentals, yeah, and then.
It actually is. Actually, it's number 2, because number 1 is this.
Presented.
Number 2 is that, and number 3 was short-term rentals, so,
Maybe.
but, okay. I always like to, oh, did you have anything?
No.
I always
Thank
like
you very-
to
Wendy,
let,
thank you very much for helping out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Counselor Delast, if you have any other business you'd like to.
so
bring up.
you'll be with us now?
Yeah, so I will be with you until Natalie comes back, and I know that she's very interested in the solar law, so I have a feeling that she will have comments when, so.
I don't plan on taking her off the email list, so.
Yes, no, exactly.
She'll be
No,
bored one night. while
Yes,
somebody
yes,
offers
so
her
I'm
to
probably
sleep.
not right at the beginning, but she did tell me that
Yeah.
you guys were pretty knee-deep in the solar law, so.
Yeah.
She sent me her last updates too, to incorporate into everything,
Yeah.
so. I'll make sure that those are all
Yeah, so
captured.
I'm happy to fill her shoes and let me know, what we can do. Peter and I are covering, and then Carrie Pollock from our office is also covering, because there's a few meetings that I'll have a conflict on, so.
Who is the other person?
Carrie Pollock,
Okay.
so, she won't, I practice in this area, so I represent a lot of municipalities and applicants. Carrie doesn't, but, just to have someone here to be able to, take in a
Some of
question
this stuff
and,
is,
Yeah.
pretty
applies
straight.
to everything.
Right, some of it would be like, I know the answer to that always.
Yes, because I do know I won't be available for your first May meeting,
Okay,
so.
that's it. I'm just gonna cancel the first meeting. No, I'm just joking.
Lots of notice on.
With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:25
So
PM.
moved at 8.
Oh, actually, you know what, I forgot, oh, no, I asked Jim. Jim already went, I think, right? Jim, you didn't have anything, you said?
No, I didn't have anything to add.
Okay, now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:25 PM.
I've changed my mind.
Okay. Motion by Pat,
Second.
second by Lisa, all in favor? All right, thanks, good to see everyone.